So inherently, to build a building, you burn gas for excavators, for putting together all the building materials. That creates carbon that goes into the environment.
So,
It has to be offset somehow.
a lot of people that are going to be listening to this are going to say, this is fucking impossible. Am I correct in that regard?
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard. It's extremely hard.
Extremely hard becomes impossible when?
When you don't do the necessary research.
Good day, everybody. Welcome back to Confronting the Impossible. I'm your host, Leo Jacobs, and we're going to be discussing, again, a beautiful and wonderful guest, Aundre Oldacre. Aundre, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Leo.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So with Aundre, we're going to discuss what we always do at the Confronting the Impossible is we discuss the trials and the tribulations of those that have been through it and that have persevered. And today's discussion is going to mainly focus on personal, individual, and business impossibilities and how Aundre traverses that. So without further ado, let's get into it. Aundre,
Absolutely.
give us a background of who you are and what you have done, and let's have it. Let's talk about it.
You're doing Aundre Oldacre, managing partner of Aora Development. I grew up in Wheatley Heights, New York, which is in Long Island,
Very cool.
right on the Suffolk County, a board of Suffolk in Nassau County. Went to a public school, was a very good athlete, ran track at the University of Virginia, was MVP my fourth year.
Very cool.
So ran the 400 and 800 in UVA and had a full track scholarship. So
Very nice.
Yeah.
So you were a track athlete,
yes.
and has that been an impact on the world of business for you?
Sure. I mean, it requires a tremendous amount of discipline, right?
How did you attain that? Were you born with that?
Well, I was always a good athlete. So I got scholarship offers in soccer, basketball, and track.
Oh, wow.
But track obviously led me to the path. I finished third in New York State in the 400 meters, and then ended up going down to UVA.
So being third, that's a big feat. How did you build that resilience? How did you confront that?
So, growing up, my dad was very strict. I'm Jamaican American. My parents are first generation Jamaican here to the States. Actually, both my older brothers were born in Jamaica. So we had discipline. We had, we were building rental houses. I was doing a lot of manual labor and work in
Jamaica?
No, here in New
York, yeah.
in Long Island. I was confronted with having to do a lot of labor that other folks would farm out, like raking almost half acre of land every in the fall, and mowing lawns and doing a bunch of chores. Right, my older brothers were 8 and 6 years older, so when they moved out, I was doing a lot of the chores by myself. Right,
And that redundancy built that discipline.
absolutely.
Were you doing it with your dad?
Yes. So some with my dad, and then we had a rental house close by, so I learned to do all sorts of renovations, even though I, begrudgingly early in my life, and I'd rather be outside playing with friends, but learned to not be afraid of looking at a gut renovation, which I did later in my life, right?
How old were you there?
Teenager.
16, 17, 18, 19?
Yep.
And were you a track star then?
Yes. So when I said third in New York State, that was in high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So how did you get into that track?
So I was, first started out with soccer, was very good. I was on a travel team. We traveled, a bunch of places, Canada, Maryland, a bunch of tournaments. We had a very good team locally. Going on into high school, was starting to get looks, for scholarships. And
Did your dad push you to do that?
yes, but it was once I was good, and it really became self-inflicted. Like
I
really
think I want to know more. I think I want to know more about why you believed you were good. Why you believe you were good? Where does that come from? I mean, for the people here, how does it how does it come to you that you're great at something and you want to continue that?
Sure.
How do you answer that question?
I mean, I was scoring a lot of goals. I was one of the better performers in Long Island.
So it was a comparison amongst your peers,
Exactly.
and you said you were ahead objectively.
Yes.
But were you ahead subjectively?
Yes.
So subjectively, so the objectivity led to the subjectivity that you were great.
Yeah. So, for instance, in my high school team, I was moved up to varsity. Actually, my junior high school was 7th through 9th. I was moved up to varsity from 9th grade. So I'd go to the high school from 9th grade. I was supposed to do the same in basketball, but my principal didn't want me to do both. So, but as a 9th grader, I was the fastest on the team. Period.
And you quit that at some point.
Well, no, I didn't quit. Well, soccer, I mean, in college, yes, I moved on to track full time. But I actually thought of walking on to the to the soccer team, even though I had offers from various other places like Georgetown and Syracuse and other places. UVA was the #1 school in the country. They won 3 out of 4 national championships while I was there. They were recruiting nothing but All-Americans, so it was quite intimidating.
So, interestingly enough, you find yourself in a suit, not in a track suit.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, you got to grow up.
So tell me about that. What do you mean by that? What did you have to let go? Did you have to let go of something? Did you have to
No,
grow
I
up?
mean it's the natural progression of life, right? I was a scholar athlete, but then you move on to business world. So I started out working in finance, I was an econ major, economics, and moved into I worked at Morgan Stanley and mortgage-backed securities, and then later moved into worked at Credit Suisse, and then I completely switched gears.
So I deeply appreciate the pivot, and there's reasons for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds to me, and I just want to challenge you here.
Sure.
It sounds to me that you were great at those things. Why not continue? Why not continue those things?
I wasn't Olympic level good.
So there was resistance there.
Sure.
There was good and great amongst your peers, and then there was, hey, you're just not cutting it for Olympian status.
Sure.
So you tried.
Yeah. Well, I tried as hard as I could, but I was good
Until some point.
And
how did you confront that impossibility?
Oh, it was a means to an end, right? It was a track scholarship. I was highly competitive. I loved it. It was grueling. It took a lot of discipline to manage both your schoolwork and the track workouts, because track, unlike most other sports in college, you start a week or two after you go to school in August, right? And you finish after school ends. So whereas most sports have a off season, you're training all winter, and then when you come back from winter break, you have the first week back all the way. You start winter track, and then you go into spring track, and then that continues on till after school is finished.
So at some point you found out, okay, Leo, I'm great, but I'm not great for Olympian status. What went through your mind?
Time to get a job. Time to move back home and get a job.
So it was truly a means to an end.
Sure.
Did you feel inside that's something you had to let go, or is it kind of like just
No, I mean, I knew pretty early that I wasn't going to be Olympic status, but I was good, right? I placed, I think, 5th in the ACC in the 400, I think, and the 800 in different years. But I was good, not elite.
Yeah. So you made a pivot. You went into effectively business.
Yes.
And you said something about going to college and doing mortgage-backed securities. Tell me about that.
So after school, I got a job at Morgan Stanley in Brooklyn office, and worked in mortgage-backed securities. But it was a job to me. Like, it was economics. Learned about corporate world, and it was good. But I had other aspirations.
What were those other aspirations?
So I completely switched gears and started in 2006. I took a package from Credit Suisse and started. I had already had a company called VMix, stands for Video Mix, and doing video remixes. So I was the pioneer of video remixing.
You have experience in creativity with music.
Yes.
Would you consider that creativity in running as well, or no?
Not really. No.
It'll be more athletic,
Yeah,
more sports.
exactly.
So in this specific sense, you started doing video remixes for what?
So think of an audio remix where different artists over different beats and different songs, but I was doing it, adding the music video with it, right? So I was doing it for television shows. I kind of had, I say I have the reverse DJ practice. Most DJs go from house parties to clubs to the radio to TV. I went straight to TV. I was doing production for the Weekend Vibe show, for Vibe Awards, for a little bit for ESPN.
How'd you make that pivot?
So I got a break with BT and was doing remixes first for Weekend Vibe, but then I was doing mixes for a show called Rap City and 106 in Park. They were popular.
I know them. Yeah.
They were popular shows in the late 90s and early 2000s. And I had a segment called The Video Mix, and it quickly became the most popular segment of that show.
How long did you do that for?
I did that for about 6 or 7 years.
And how old were you then?
About late 20s, early 30s.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the mortgage-backed securities, you didn't like it?
Yeah. So at the same time, I bought my first brownstone in Brooklyn, which is what led me to real estate.
Interesting.
So
Tell me about that.
I bought a brownstone. I did what's called an 80-20, so 80% debt and another 20% debt, which you can never do again.
Right.
Well, so I took basically 100% financing. I took the money that I had from my that I had saved up and from my package, and did all the renovations. I did a complete gut renovation.
What do you mean by package?
So I got I took a layoff package.
Aha.
Yeah.
From Credit
So
Suisse.
yes, so I got offers to be in other areas, but I knew I wanted to do my media business, so I took the package.
Aha. And you wanted to do the media business, so you were doing the media. I'm assuming that generated revenue.
Yes, of course.
And you bought your first brownstone.
Yes.
Can I know where?
Brooklyn, Crown Heights.
Nice. So
So
I
it's a
used
3-family.
Okay. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I bought, you have to have vision, right? Because
You have to have vision, yeah.
across the street there was a graffitied up building. There was an old hospital that they were converting from a hospital to residential, and they had just finished converting it. So, there was a methanol clinic on a block next to me. It was a shade.
bad.
It was a seedy area.
Okay.
Right? I showed people, there was walls that were, missing, and there was blacked out windows from the former owner. They were smoking crack in there.
And why did you decide to buy it?
Because I wasn't afraid. I had done it before. Like I told you, growing up, I had built a patio with my dad. We had fixed up a rental house. If I didn't have that upbringing, I would never have taken on this project, because I know what it takes. I know how much it costs. I know what it takes, the people to hire. I had that sort of background and experience to take on such a venture
Alone.
alone.
And your dad was there before. Your dad was not there when you purchased this.
No. I mean, he came and did a little help and gave me advice, but this was alone.
It was autonomous, or more autonomous than otherwise would be.
Exactly.
And what had that experience taught you? Were you successful?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that brownstone was the anchor for me in real estate, since it's, that house has almost 4x'd.
You still have it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you said don't ever do the 100% financing. I mean, this is
No, you can't, right? The
So-
banks won't let you do that anymore.
won't let you do that anymore, but you did it. Tell me how you
Yes.
did it.
So at the time, you could do 80% for your first loan, 20% for your second loan, and then use your cash to
Renovate. And was that successful?
Yes, absolutely was. But I had a high second mortgage. So my second mortgage was almost 12, 13%. So I had to get out of that second mortgage quickly.
But you weren't afraid of that.
No.
And why is that?
Because I knew I was going to be able to renovate quickly, stay on my guys. I was living in the house. So I lived in every apartment. There's 3 apartments. I lived in every apartment while I was renovating. Couldn't afford to be renting didn't have the luxury of renting on the side. And so I lived there. I was there every day, monitoring all the GC work. If they were slacking off, I would quickly, move on to somebody else.
So you talk about vision.
Mm-hmm.
You said you had a vision. You have to have a vision. And you talk about experience, and you were not afraid. And you talk about being athletic, and you talk about creativity. I can't really pin you down, to be quite frank with you, right? In one breath, you're doing your own renovation. Another breath, you're doing mortgage-backed securities. Another breath, you're doing something with athleticism.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're doing production of video. But there seems to be one theme that is consistent. I wanted to ask you what that theme is.
Creativity and imagination. I'm able to see and synthesize things that I feel like other people may miss.
Well, where did you get that?
Just inherent.
So if you were to take away the creativity of athleticism and the video production and the CMBS and the Brownstone, what do you have left?
A degree.
Right,
Yeah.
but you also have something else. What do you have?
I can see opportunities. Others, I'm big into technology. I see, I follow and see trends. So whether that was scoping out Crown Heights before it became what Crown Heights is today, whether it's looking at, putting together audio and video remixes. I did 50 Cent's video mixtape for the Massacre album. I did, mixes that Nas toured with. I did, some mixes for Alicia Keys and other people. So did some pretty notable mixes. I actually wanted to do, turn that into full-time. Well, I mean, it was full-time, but I wanted to be on iTunes and but the issue became the licensing. So Def Jam actually offered me to do a best of Def Jam 20th anniversary mix. They loved the talent, but they couldn't get their own licensing to proven.
So in everything that you did, right, in all those facets of your life, were you always decidedly decided?
No. I mean, there was always challenges, right?
But to discuss them with me and how you traverse that. That's what I'm interested in that, because it seems to me that you're kind of in the Sahara Desert, in the ocean, on the street, in the air at the same time.
Yep.
So tell me where that chaos comes from.
You figure things out on the fly, right? So the licensing became an issue, but we're doing it for promotional purposes only. So on TV that's why I moved on, because so BET was bought by Viacom, and Viacom was a bigger brand.
Right.
And Napster had come out and
ruled the world.
And now that they were now not allowed, they were not giving promo videos to the TRLs like MTV and Rap City and 106 and Park. They weren't giving. They just died, right? So then my TV world died.
So you had to pivot.
I had to pivot.
And how did you do that?
So I pivoted more into video editing and production work for Ebony, for Pepsi, for other production work.
You know what I noticed a trend about you is that when I ask you questions, you just say, well, I did this, and then I did that. Where do you get your audacity from? Because that's audacious in my view.
Absolutely.
So where does that come from? It's going to be your dad's, come from you. Where does it come from?
I guess family upbringing, but being the youngest of three brothers, you have to try to compete with them, right? So growing up, because I was playing flag football in the street, or I had playing basketball with them, I had to catch up, right? I had to try to be as good as them to get on the court, or else I wasn't going to see the court.
So having someone to look forward to, or up to, or against, how would you frame it? Forward to, against?
Again, not against, up to, right?
Up
you got
to
compete up to their standards, or they're just going to be like, you're not good enough. You're too young.
How long were they in front of you until you surpassed them?
I'd say about 14, 15.
Okay, and who became or what became in front of you?
Then I was always playing with people. I was always playing up, right? So
Tell me more.
I'm playing with my brothers and their friends. I'm playing with a couple of friends that I have that are older than me. So I'm always playing a level up. So it's more competitive, right?
But why is that? Is that necessary?
It's just my skill level was, I could compete with them, right?
And
I was athletic enough to do that.
Right. But if you take away something in front of you that you're looking up to, or you are against, and then you have to kind of get past. If you take that away, would you still be that guy?
I think so. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. So you're very colored in that regard. And by the time you get to the CMBS world, you said you're in your late 20s, 30s.
No. So that's right out of school. So 22, 23.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you did the gig with the music.
Yeah. So I started that around age 30. I bought my house and started the business VMix at age 30.
And you still have the brownstone.
Still have the brownstone
Why do you still have the brownstone?
because it just rents keep going up and my mortgage gets I'm paying down my mortgage.
Well, you know others would sell it.
Yes.
So why do you keep it?
I keep it because I was able to pull money out of that to finance other work.
Tell
right?
me about that. What does that mean? What is
So taking
people
a home
what
equity taking a home equity line of credit to buy other buildings. So I bought a building in Fort Greene. I bought another building in Yonkers, and did the same thing. Basically, the Burr strategy from Bigger Pockets, right? So bought more assets. But what really led me into development was the first property that I bought.
What do you mean by that?
So I hit the zoning lottery. So they changed the zoning to R7A, which means that you can now go up 8 stories. So buildings are rated on what's called FAR, floor area ratio.
Right.
So I had a floor area ratio of, I think it was like a 3, right? So now,
In the Bed-Stuy building.
in the Crown Heights building,
Crown
yes.
Heights building.
So now I can, instead of my building was built to 3,200 square feet, I can now build 10,000 square feet for my lot.
That's amazing.
Yes, but you have to have experience. So my neighbors were older. They looked like it was a potential to combine the two buildings because 20-foot frontage is, for a 8-story building is very skinny and doesn't really make sense.
Right.
But with 40 feet frontage, it would make sense.
Uh-huh.
Right. And they were older. They, very good relationship with them. I would snow their driveway. I mean, the sidewalk for them. We had a very good relationship with the family. Right. And I had talked to them about potentially purchasing later. So, but to do that, to be able to knock down both buildings and go up, I had to take formal training. So I took formal training from online courses from Cornell and learned the ins and outs of real estate development. So that's underwriting, property management, asset management.
What year was this?
This is 2017, 2018.
And you knew how to do this naturally?
Yeah, I mean, so I was already in the business, right? I already owned a few properties in Brownstone, so I was already doing some property management for my properties.
But the bedrock was your dad.
Yes.
And where is that experience today? Where has that experience led you to today?
So now we're AOR Development. My partner, Robert Allen, is a older man, 65-year-old Cornell engineer, but had a GC business for 9 years with a staff of 35. They did renovations throughout New York City and outside. But he also helped Turner build a $1 billion hospital. So he had all the construction experience. So now I was able to expand from my thinking from renovating brownstones to developing from ground up to much bigger property.
How long have you been developing brownstones for?
No, we weren't developing brownstones, we were fixing brownstones. So since 2006.
Since 2006. So your first brownstone was 2006.
Yes.
How many brownstones did you grow to?
Oh, just 3. And then I started AOR Development to work on other projects and other work.
Where did that foundation to pivot to do other things come from? Was it from the Cornell course?
Yeah, so now that I knew how to underwrite a deal and do ground up and even renovations, I now had, other skills that I could do, right? So my partner had the construction experience. I knew the ins and outs of property management, raising capital, doing underwriting for a deal. So.
And if you had not done the brownstone and just taken the Cornell course,
there's no way I could be doing what we're doing now.
So is there a prerequisite to looking at or taking a Cornell course? Like
No, there isn't.
no. So that's what I'm asking you.
Yeah.
What I'm asking you is, and I'm getting at a theme here, but
Mm-hmm.
what I'm asking you is, if you had never built a brownstone and just had your father's experience, which is effectively the bedrock to your success, if I may say so myself,
Sure.
if you skipped, just like you skipped, went from no house parties to video production,
Yeah.
could you have possibly done that and just taken the Cornell course without ever developing a brownstone and just go straight into bigger projects? What do you think about that?
So I would have had to have worked at an institutional group in between, right? There's no way to go from brownstone to my path without having some experience or a partner that has experience, right?
Well, what I'm saying is, I'm trying to get to a theme here. If you've never built a brownstone and something told you, I want to take a Cornell course about underwriting, executing on real estate, right? And you took that course, would you be able to, without the experience of building that brownstone, would you be able to move forward into bigger projects? Just having that knowledge.
No.
Why?
Because you have to go through baby steps, right? You have to go through dealing with GCs, them stiffing you, them not doing what they say they're going to do. You have to deal with the experience of knowing how much things cost, from electrical, MEP, which is mechanical, electrical, plumbing, flooring, all these things that go into a smaller development that later lead into bigger developments.
You mean
right?
the micro failures?
Yes. So plenty of micro failures, plenty of GCs that I had disagreements with, and I feel like they stiffed me. But you learn to structure your contracts with them better, milestone based. You learn by doing it, starting small and not making $1 million mistakes.
Could I challenge you in one sense? Are you saying you and I both agree that building a brownstone is not building a multifamily, 20 unit building? Am I correct? Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
But so you don't need do you need the experience, or do you need to know how to accept that people will not abide by timelines, not pay you, you don't get paid? What do you actually need? I mean, do you actually need to know how to build a brownstone, then a big property?
No, so there's another
What do you
path.
need to know?
You need to have the experience of working on these projects.
You
right?
mean working with people
Yes.
with these projects?
That work within, so that includes building permitting and knowing what you can and cannot do. And
What I'm trying to get at
Okay.
is when you're confronting certain experiences with any task or any say building or construction, I think I'm trying to get at what is the theme or what is the butter that rises to the top, and what is the commonality between building a brownstone, building a multifamily unit, building the Chrysler building. What theme is consistent? What shows up time and time again? What is constant?
structure, having the structure to organize your contracts, organize the people that you're working with, relationships, right? Having relationships with your GC. They can be your best friend or your worst enemy, right? So if you don't have a relationship with them, they may not go to bat for you, right? They may not take the extra steps. They may not give you breaks when you need them, or if financing is maybe later on or take these extra, they may not be willing to give you a break to say, I'll take the financing later because we need to get to a means to an end where you can start generating revenue. So having having relationships with all the trades, architecture, structural MEP, the building department, permits, even when you get into bigger projects, politicians, that you need to have relationships, but also have the structure to be able to repeat your process.
Correct.
And when things go awry, to cut bait quickly and move on.
So the breeding ground for those disciplines that you're discussing right now was built in building that brownstone?
Well, not building it,
Gut
renovating. Yes, gut renovating it. Yes.
But building your character.
Yes. Because there's some times where
Tell me about those times.
I mean, GCs have smaller GCs basically will low bid a job, and then they will basically they'll pay workers whatever their labor rate is, and when they run out of money, they are keeping their 10 to 20% markup, whatever they feel that their markup is. So things may be are always going great in the beginning. You're getting work done, but things start to slow down as they're getting towards the end of their budget, and they're only 50% complete, right? So they've run out of their money. They know they need the margin. They'll walk out on you.
Uh-huh. But to me, the themes in your life and being in the music industry and building this first brownstone and being an athlete and then pivoting, it doesn't seem like you've confronted a lot of impossible. Said differently, when did you find that you had to confront some sort of impossibility? I want to get to that because I feel like everything we just discussed was leading up to something that was going to test all of those things you've learned.
So, paying a mortgage, paying, for the first brownstone, paying, let's call it $10,000 a month in renovation for my workers, starting a new business.
You're describing an activity. What are you trying to point out with this activity?
So money runs out fast, and you have to figure out ways to pivot and borrow other money, other capital to get to the finish line. Because if you don't get to the finish line, you have a half-built house that you can't rent.
So is that your impossibility?
That was my early impossibility. Now I face much bigger impossibilities.
But that early impossibility, tell me how you traversed that. How did you get over that? I'm assuming you had negative bank account statuses and balances.
Yes.
Okay.
Credit card debt, get out of that 20% high interest rate, 13% interest rate financing, but I had to get it rented out first. So I had to get to the finish line of finishing those apartments, and then my apartment, I could renovate. It doesn't matter because it's not generating income, right? So I could do mine slower, but I had to get to a refinance where I could lower my monthly mortgage to where I could afford to pay the mortgage.
So what did you pull from in your mind to stay ahead of the game when you were not ahead of the game, literally? What did you pull from?
Perseverance, right?
But where did that perseverance come from?
I guess from growing up in athleticism and the grueling workouts that you do and then having to go do schoolwork
because you understand that not having enough money and having a negative balance in your bank account does not get a lot of people up in the morning. It would do the reverse. It would want to make them give up. Why didn't you give up?
Well, my life savings were in this house. I had no choice, right?
So you must do it.
I must finish. I must get this house refinanced. I must get renters for my apartment or I'm going under. Right?
So I'm assuming that impossibility has only compounded in your life.
Of course.
Okay,
yes.
Let's get there.
Absolutely.
Let's get to the compounded impossibility, because I'm assuming that once that impossibility of that brownstone inevitably ended, you thought for 1 second you were okay. But then something else occurred and there were greater impossibilities that await you. So tell me about those.
So right now we are currently working to build the world's first triple net zero building, meaning zero water, zero waste, zero energy. Now, why do I have the audacity to think I could do the first? And it's a $600 million project just outside of New York City in Lower Westchester.
Tell me about that.
Why do I have the audacity to do that? First, my architect designed the first, but it was in Albany and the owner passed away. So I have an architect that has experience engineering and designing a triple net zero. So I learned from him a great deal of why even consider this as just for namesake, or does it actually have benefit? Obviously, we were sustainably focused from the very beginning. We started area development in 2019. We really focused more on the off-site construction and modular construction to begin with. So I was chair of the off-site construction council with the National Institute of Building Sciences. So I know a lot of manufacturers and factories through that world.
So, in plainest terms, what do you want to accomplish in building the first of whatever you're going to explain to me in the plainest terms, so that a dog could understand it?
Sure.
And then, what is the objective above your individual passion? Because I'm assuming there's a passion here.
Absolutely.
Right. So, tell me about that, please.
So there's a misnomer that sustainability is just way too expensive and it's a nice to have, it's not a need to have.
Explain what sustainability means.
It means your building is operating way more efficiently.
And why do you need that? Who cares about that?
It inherently makes your building more valuable.
But who cares about that?
Investors can care about better evaluations for their building.
So it ties back to money.
Yes.
How does having a sustainable business tie back to money? Sustainable project tie back to money.
So commercial real estate is evaluated on NOI, which is the net operating income, how much you're bringing in. Well, the gross operating income is how much you bring in versus the operating expenses brings you to your NOI.
Because we're going to get to your value proposition in just about a second.
Yes.
So what is it?
We combine the best of sustainability and off-site construction methods to build efficiently, but also operate and maintain efficiently. So I have the moniker of how you build is just as important as what you build.
How you build is important.
Just as important as what you build.
And why is that?
Because how you build is better for the environment, right? So,
but why do I care about that?
Because climate change is happening.
So it's a political concern.
Well, it's not political. It's a...
Meaning if you take it as fact and it's occurring, for those that believe it is fact and it is occurring, because we're not a political podcast,
Sure.
right? For those that believe that that is happening, then that is going to matter to them.
Sure.
Do you believe that that pool is greater or smaller as we're moving into 2026?
It's greater.
And what evidence do you have of that?
So you have the Paris Treaty, you have various international organizations, climate justice. You have all these international people and scientists and telling you that this is happening, and international organizations that are telling you this.
Okay, so under the backdrop of the geopolitical climate, you found this to be, frankly, something that people believe in and take as true and take as fact. And you've converted it into a, frankly, business model or business pitch.
Yes. So ESG became the term. It's been around for a while, but it became more popular over the past, I'd say, 7 or 8 years. Institutionally responsible, and every major company from Amazon are making claims to be net zero operations by a certain year, whether it be 2030 or 2050.
And what does net zero operate? What does that mean?
So your production, your work, your output is offset by zero carbon, right?
Okay.
So inherently, to build a building, you burn gas for excavators, for putting together all the building materials. That creates carbon that goes into the environment.
So
it has to be offset somehow.
A lot of people that are going to be listening to this are going to say, this is fucking impossible. Am I correct in that regard?
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard. It's extremely hard.
And extremely hard becomes impossible when?
When you don't do the necessary research. So everything has to be offset, right? So the way an Amazon gets to zero carbon is they buy carbon credits, which some are saying it's greenwashing, but they'll buy credits, they'll buy from an organization that may be doing greener farming, right? That's deforestation,
correct.
That may be planting trees and pulling carbon from the atmosphere, right?
Right. So getting back to more of the point, you said how you build is more important, as important as what you build.
Yes.
So we discussed the true impossibility of building sustainably. I mean, that is true. And now what we build, why does it matter what we build?
So,
in relation to sustainability?
so what we build is office buildings. It's
Okay.
multifamily, right?
Right.
That's what we build.
Well,
and we
multifamily
build
is
we build
residential.
that because there's a need for all that, right? So we have a 7 million shortage nationwide in,
Right.
in housing.
I
Right?
agree with you on that.
We need housing.
I agree
So
with you on that.
inherently, we need to build more housing.
Okay, and you said the how is important, so you're doing it sustainably.
Yes.
And now, again, I think that's impossible, but well, you're going to tell me why it is possible. That's one of the ways you're confronting it in the business world, right? And then there's the what build. So what you build is office buildings, and you're converting them into?
So we're not building office buildings. We're building multifamily and mixed use. We're considering office to residential conversions
Why?
because there's a lot of office distressed in New York City right
Does
now.
it answer your how?
Partially, yes.
And how does that do that?
Because we can take an office building that is easier to renovate because it's empty, right? You don't have to, with multifamily, you have to do it in place sometimes. With say a rent stabilized building, we have to do the renovations in place with tenants in place. We're not, we're not going to displace people out of a rent stabilized building.
Because I think there's two things, right? There's individual apartment improvements, and then there is major capital improvements,
Yes.
which is the outside of the building,
Yes.
outside, inside, and on the corridors or whatever, right? So there's two components there. We understand from the rent stabilization laws that it doesn't matter what you do now, you can't raise them anyways.
Exactly.
It's virtually impossible.
So a lot of them are going back to the bank. A lot of them are distressed, right? You have a negative NOI. So every year, your utilities, your operating expenses, your property tax, they're all going up more than the 0 to 2 to 3% increase that you're allowed to increase in the rent.
And I'm assuming Aundre comes in and changes that.
Yes. So the
How?
only way
How?
is by lowering your utility cost.
But in order to lower your utility cost, don't you have to invest more money?
Yes.
So what you're doing is effectively making the liability amortized over a very long amount of time so that you can capitalize on the gain today while effectively implementing the how you build
Yes.
and the what you build sustainably.
Yes. So New York State is great, and that's why love will stay here. NYSERDA, which is the energy corporation for the state, there's a lot of incentives there. There's local incentives. We have what's called Local Law 97 in New York City. Any building over 25,000 square feet, you have to decrease your carbon emissions by 40% by the year 2030, and by 80% by the year, I think, 2050.
So where in all this is the easy part?
It's never easy.
Okay, so tell me where you actually do have that impossibility. What's impossible? There has to be something that breaks.
So it's incentive stacking, right? And
What do you mean by that?
so stacking your local, your utility, your state, and your federal incentives, along with maybe some low-income housing tax credits, along with understanding all the potential incentives available to you for your specific project.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you really believe that what you are doing will truly answer sustainability or not?
Yes.
And why is that?
Because we can be a model for other investors and developers to show that the numbers actually do work and it's actually more profitable than to do it traditionally.
I'm assuming you put your mouth where your money is.
Yes.
And I'm assuming it may very well get to the brownstone days where you have the negative bank balances to prove the sustainability works.
Potentially.
Well, that's very, very interesting. That's
Yes.
very, very interesting. The value that you bring to the world is by answering a question of we could do it better, kind of like organic, right?
Sure.
I'm the organic chicken, effectively. Not you, but you know what I'm building or what I'm serving. And you're saying that the market's answering that. Is the market answering that?
Yes, in certain instances, yes.
And
it's slow to adopt.
Okay, it's slow to adopt. And you are continuing that line despite it's slow to adapt. So you're ahead of the curve.
Yes. Always have been. That's kind of my career like always ahead of the curve, always thinking about what's next, not what's now.
That seems like it goes back to your brothers. You had older brothers, so you have to
Yes.
always look up to.
Yes.
So let me ask you now, what are you looking up to, and what is your adversary, or what is in front of you now? What is that? What is that person that you kind of got to say, I got to get ahead of that?
So in dealing with big projects and building the way we want to build. So for instance, we want to build, instead of traditional excavation with gas, diesel excavators, we're looking at heavy autonomous electric machinery, meaning it's powered by electric and it's autonomous, right? That's one of many, right? So we're looking at bathroom pods, kitchen pods, MEP walls, which means the mechanical, electrical, plumbing
Yeah.
is built within a wall and shipped to you directly.
You know,
Now, what that does is it decreases your time to complete construction, which lowers your holding costs and all that. But it's also built in a market that's cheaper, right? So we build it in Pennsylvania. We build it even overseas with lower rates, but in a factory-controlled environment that's a safer environment for the workers, but also better quality, cheaper, and more reliable, less cost contingencies, right? So you have less cost overruns because you have what's called a BIM model, building information model, and what you see, you're building. So in many traditional construction, there's what's called cost overruns, and that's how GCs make a lot of money versus the slim 3 to 5% margin that they say they're going to start with. They make money on a lot of those cost overruns. Oh, I'm changing this, I'm changing that. But when you do offsite construction, all of your design work is front loaded and you have to stick to what you're building.
So this reminds me of what I do and what I practice. I'm a bankruptcy and commercial litigation attorney at Jacobs PC. I own the firm. And, you're discussing a lot of, I guess, vantage points that steer clear of any reasons why something would not work. And when we get into the impossibilities of why those things are impossible, you seem to agree. But you're a staunch supporter of your vision, even if that vision is a little ahead of what the reality currently is. And
Sure.
you like to be there. You like to sit
Absolutely.
in that.
I thrive in that space.
I thrive in that space too. I call that chaos.
Yes.
And that chaos is something we are comfortable in. Not all are comfortable in, and I think there's a place for that. Both a place for that, and there are people that sit in that place and that could operate from that space. But there's a necessary component, which we were talking about, and the themes that we're talking about, that requires of you something. Explain in your own way what it requires.
Perseverance, tenacity, being able to see what's coming in the future so you don't have to retrofit your building later, right?
But you have to do all those things in spite of it actually failing right now.
Exactly.
But that makes no sense.
So people are wary of why build. This is just doesn't make any sense. Why build triple net zero? It adds $70 per square foot to build this way versus traditionally.
You said
and
that. I didn't say it. You said that.
And traditional people having trouble penciling out traditional deals. So how in the hell are you going to build with $70 extra per square
They're
foot?
speaking to your failures.
Yes.
And how do you answer?
The incentive stacking, right? So bringing the levelized net cost back much closer to the traditional cost. But also, you have a traditional building has a 35% operating cost for a traditional market rate multifamily deal. We're operating at, we're projecting to be operating at in this building between 18 and 22. So we have lower utility costs, we have lower water and costs because we become the utility. So instead of paying the utility company, Con Edison, we are collecting from our tenants' utilities.
Mm-hmm. So those buildings that are in distress, is this a way for you to pitch to the new purchasers about how to save on the operating cost and net net cost of the building so that you could get a higher return?
Absolutely. And because of this project in Lower Westchester that we're working on, we've created basically an AI native SaaS platform that we're working on called Incentedge. It's not out yet. We're building it out. But
What does that do?
It's 3 silos in the industry. So there's incentive finding and discovery.
Yeah.
So finding lesser known incentive. Everybody knows about IRA, 30% discount on geothermal, whatever. State level, and some people know about utilities, right? And within the state and utilities, they constantly have new ones coming on and some expiring. So you have to keep up with that. So there's an incentive discovery at Silo 1. Silo 2 is the grant writing. So now you know what your project is available, what incentives are available for your project. You have to go write the grants to receive those awards. Some are as of right, some you have to apply for, right? So grant writing is expensive, and you can't apply for all the grants maybe that you want because some of them are lower probability. Mm-hmm. So we are building an AI native platform that will do it cheaper, but we have a repository of over 30,000 incentives across the nation, sector agnostic, that allows you, and also we have successfully awarded within those 30,000 incentives to know confidently and give you a probability of how a specific incentive will match up to your property or your project, right? So the AI can tell us with 75% probability, because we've seen these 100 projects that are similar to yours, you'll be able to qualify for that.
So if you had to prepare a statement in your head, your push is to make this project work. Your pull is what? What is the pulling? What is pulling you to make this project work? To prove what?
That sustainability does work when done efficiently with the right building methodology and with the right building systems.
But if your frame does not work, what has to necessarily break for it to not work?
What has to break?
Yeah.
Costs run out of control. But these are things that you are in the design phase you're tackling early.
But what will not break?
Yeah. Well, you have a lower cost contingency, so you have more certainty of it working properly. A general contractor give you a GMP, like they will not go over this amount, right?
Correct.
So you get some certainty in that cost.
And you
right?
believe in that? Maybe.
But
maybe
with the offsite construction, the cost overruns can sometimes go 25% over.
Right, but the impossibility exists where?
Improving that these impossible levels of sustainability, triple net zero, water, waste, and energy can be done and can be done more profitable than building it traditionally.
And you believe in that?
I believe in that.
Well, I think you're the right guy for it.
Thank you.
Think you're the right guy for
Thank
it.
you.
Aundre, I want to thank you for coming on the Impossible, Confronting the Impossible today.
Absolutely.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation.
I loved it. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure to have you on. To everybody listening, please listen to Aundre Oldacre.
Yes.
To his Confronting the Impossible of Sustainability. Thank you all.
Thank you.